Welcome to Lawyers Who Care, the video show podcast that highlights attorneys who go above and beyond for their clients. And on each episode, we'll meet a new lawyer and they will share stories of when they went beyond legal counsel for the benefit of their client. My name is Andrew Samalin. I'm the principal of Samalin Wealth, a nationally recognized wealth management firm for lawyers, their firms, and their clients. And let's applaud lawyers who care and learn from them. Today, my guest is Brenda Schamy, a founding partner in DiSchino Schamy with offices in Florida and New York. Brenda's firm specializes in business and intellectual property law. Welcome, Brenda.
Thank you so much, Andrew.
So, Brenda, tell us about what brought you to the law.
Great question. What brought me to the law? I think I was one of those kids who, when I was 4 years old, everybody would be like, oh, she'll be a lawyer. Not because I was argumentative, because I think that's a common misconception that people think that lawyers like to argue. I think it was because I was a big fan of justice, right? I wanted things to be fair. I wanted things to be right. And so I think it had more to do with that than it did with the idea of arguing. I think a great lawyer doesn't need to argue.
Gotcha. And what brought you to your specialty, your focus?
Sure. So I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I've owned everything from boxing gyms, yacht charter companies. I was in the arts for a long time as a kid. And so I was a criminal defense attorney out of law school. And eventually when I opened up my own practice, I didn't want to do criminal defense long term. And the only other thing that I knew that I was passionate about that was exciting for me was anything that had to do with creativity, right? And I always say that starting a business is one of the most creative things you can do. So we are lawyers for creatives. And when we say the word creatives, we mean anything from the traditional creative, art, fashion, music, entertainment, acting, things like that. But then also bringing an idea to fruition is one of the most creative things you can do.
And not easy too. And it requires, not only creativity, but horsepower.
Yeah. Horsepower, creativity, problem solving skills, flexibility, perseverance, all of those things for sure.
Mm-hmm. So Brenda, you have a client story you want to share with us?
Sure, I have plenty. So I know obviously the name of the podcast is Lawyers Who Care. And I think that is actually one of the things that we typically, I guess we'll say, brag about our firm, right? We really integrate into our clients' team. We consider ourselves a member of their teams, right? We go really big into the old school mentality of your lawyer being part of your team, your family, your advisor, right? It's not just somebody who hands you a contract and sends you on your way, but it's somebody that should really understand what you're doing, why you're doing it, what your goals are, and really, as we say, put on your team jersey. So I can give you one or two examples, not only about caring, but also about thinking beyond just the law, right? The contract. I can tell you an example. I had a young photographer. She was incredibly talented, and she photographed a pretty large musical artist. He was a rapper and very, very famous, took a picture. He did not have the rights to that picture, and he used it on an album cover. And while my client was incredibly flattered because we had worked together for so long, she was very aware of her rights in regards to copyright registrations and ownership and all of those things. And so typically some lawyers would have been like, oh, let's go after him. Let's claim a bunch of money. Let's do all these things. But we sat and we talked, and I said, well, what's the dream, right? And I knew this about her. What was the dream of doing this type of photography? She's like, well, the dream is to actually work with an artist like that on an ongoing basis. So instead of the typical maybe demand letter or litigation route or anything like that, what we did is we reached out to their team, and we used this as a door opener to start a conversation, which eventually led her to be his photographer for, they may still be working together. This was over 10 years ago, but they might still be working together. So she landed her dream job essentially from understanding the law, connecting with her lawyers, and understanding that there's so many different strategies when you have leverage, right? And sometimes the leverage and the strategy is not get money, but sometimes there's a bigger picture at play. There's a relationship to be made. And so just a short story of something that not only is obviously about going above and beyond, but also in really knowing your clients and their pressure points and what matters to them. And also in creative problem solving and thinking fast and past beyond the traditional remedies for potential wrongdoing.
Mm-hmm. So if we're going to wrap up, if you could leave our listeners with one takeaway, what would it be?
I think when it comes to lawyers specifically, don't be afraid to ask questions. Your lawyer should be somebody who is there to make your life better, easier, and more digestible, and not somebody that you should fear or feel, not as intelligent or whatever the case is. Your lawyer is there to help you understand, to make you smarter, to make you better, to basically lend the knowledge that they've gained over time and experience so that you can be empowered by it, not afraid by it.
Interesting. I'd like to just thank Brenda Schamy from DiSchino Schamy for joining us today. Brenda, can you share with our audience your contact information?
Absolutely. My email address is Brenda, BRENDA, at dsmiami.com. Our website is www.dsmiami.com.
Perfect. This has been the Lawyers Who Care video show podcast that highlights attorneys who go above and beyond for their clients. If you're an attorney or know one who does go above and beyond, feel free to reach out to us, 914-666-6600. Brenda, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.